I stood frozen in the hallway, grocery bags in hand, as my own parents called me a burden. After years of paying their bills, without a single thank you. Hey there, and welcome to today's story. Wherever you are right now, walking, driving, or just taking a moment to yourself, I hope you'll settle in because this one's personal. Today, we meet a character standing at the crossroads between loyalty and self-worth. Have you ever given everything to someone, only to realize you were being taken for granted? If that question hits close to home, you're going to want to stay until the very end. And hey, if you find value in stories like this, I'd be incredibly grateful if you hit that subscribe button. I'm on a mission to reach 1,000 subscribers and every single one counts. Thanks so much for being here, and now let's begin.
You know that feeling when you overhear a conversation you weren't meant to? That moment your heart just sinks and reality smacks you across the face, making everything clear? Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. Hi, I'm Riley Bennett, just your typical 20-something, navigating life through Reddit threads and overthinking my Starbucks order every morning. But on a cold Thursday night, after working a brutal double shift, I walked through the door of my childhood home and overheard my parents whispering sharply in the kitchen. My dad, Owen, hissed quietly, "Riley thinks paying bills gives her some kind of authority around here. She's acting entitled." My mom, Sylvia, sighed loudly, "I can't stand it anymore. She's holding us hostage financially. It's toxic." That word echoed in my head, toxic. The same people I'd poured every ounce of myself into were now calling me toxic. I silently backed away, my pulse pounding in my ears. My little brother, Kai, suddenly appeared in the hallway, casually texting. "Oh hey, you're home early," he said dismissively, barely looking up. "Did you bring dinner?" In that moment, I knew. Everything I'd given was invisible to them. Tonight, it was time for this Reddit-savvy, exhausted 20-something to finally confront the truth. When you're 18, life's supposed to be about discovery. New friendships, college adventures, midnight talks about life's possibilities, and threads on Reddit filled with dreams, debates, and memes. For me, 18 was the age I learned responsibility. No, scratch that, responsibility crashed into me headfirst. When my dad, Owen, lost half of his shifts at the print factory, Mom, Sylvia, tried to compensate by taking on freelance administrative tasks online. But the jobs were inconsistent. My younger brother, Kai, was 15 then, entirely oblivious to financial stress. More concerned with Xbox Live and his latest sneakers than the real world beyond our doorstep. That's when I made the decision. The acceptance letter from Colorado State had been my prized possession for months. It was a ticket out, a key to independence. But standing in our cramped kitchen, staring at my parents' exhausted faces under the dim yellow bulb, I couldn't say goodbye. Not yet. So, I did what any overly responsible 18-year-old would do. I quietly withdrew my enrollment and picked up extra shifts at Java Bean Cafe downtown. The barista life wasn't glamorous. More spilled lattes and rude customers than Instagram-worthy cappuccino art, but it paid. Nights became about restocking shelves at a nearby grocery store. My world shrunk to grinding coffee beans and scanning endless barcodes. Initially, my parents noticed and even thanked me for my effort. Dad would clap me on the shoulder, his hand rough and warm, and say something like, "You're stepping up, Riley. Proud of you." Mom would occasionally offer gentle concern, "Don't burn yourself out, honey." But gratitude has an expiration date. Something I learned scrolling Reddit's r/personal finance. Slowly, appreciation morphed into silent expectation. Weeks turned into months, months into years. By 24, I was practically managing the household budget single-handedly. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, Kai's endless stream of entertainment. It was all on my shoulders. Yet, somehow, I convinced myself this was temporary. Just until things settled down, I whispered nightly into my pillow, barely believing my own words. Social life became a luxury I couldn't afford. I scrolled Reddit's popular threads, laughing at memes about college mishaps and awkward first dates I would never experience myself. Those posts felt strangely distant, belonging to someone else's reality. Emma, my best friend, tried dragging me to parties and hangouts, but exhaustion was a persuasive friend. Next time, I'd promise. Knowing next time would never come. I'll admit, there was pride hidden beneath the layers of fatigue. Pride in being the glue holding everything together. On Reddit, I'd read horror stories of families spiraling into homelessness, foreclosure, bankruptcy, terrifying worlds I believed my sacrifices prevented. Maybe I convinced myself my lack of social life, love, and personal goals was justified. I was keeping my family safe, and isn't family everything? But while I lived on instant noodles and peanut butter sandwiches, I watched Kai thrive effortlessly. Designer shoes, frequent takeout, gaming setups worthy of envy, all financed quietly from my own wages. Any subtle complaint from me earned a look of disbelief from my parents. After all, wasn't this my choice? Reddit taught me a phrase, boiling frog syndrome, a slow, imperceptible shift until suddenly you realize you're trapped. That realization arrived slowly, too late, and without mercy. Sunday dinners at my house were tradition, if you could call tense silence broken by occasional small talk tradition. We'd pass dishes quietly, eyes mostly on plates or phones, avoiding genuine conversation. This Sunday, however, something felt different in the air, heavier somehow, like the sky before a storm. Mom spooned mashed potatoes, carefully avoiding eye contact. "Riley, have you heard from your friend Emma lately?" It was unusual for her to initiate conversation, especially about my friends. "Yeah, why?" She hesitated. I ran into her mom at the store. She said Emma's got promoted recently. Marketing manager or something. I felt a tiny flicker of jealousy, not for Emma's success, but for the pride her parents openly showed. "Yeah, Emma's doing really well. She deserves it," I answered. Dad cleared his throat sharply. "Must be nice to focus on career stuff instead of all this household drama, huh?" I swallowed my irritation. "I do the best I can, Dad." He dropped his fork noisily. "Nobody asked you to." That struck hard. Kai's eyes flicked up from his phone, sensing conflict, leaning back amusedly as if this was entertainment. Mom sighed loudly, exhausted, clearly signaling her impatience. "I thought we agreed to stop arguing at the table," she said, tiredness coating each word. The injustice simmered inside me. "Arguing? I'm just trying to explain myself. I've sacrificed a lot to help." Dad's voice rose abruptly. "Sacrificed? Riley, nobody forced you to drop out of college or work multiple jobs. Stop making yourself a martyr." A martyr? The word ignited something in me. All the Reddit threads about toxic family dynamics, parentification, and emotional manipulation rushed back into my mind. Was I the cautionary tale I'd always pitted? Kai chimed in sarcastically, seriously, "If it's such a burden, maybe you should move out and give us a break." Mom and Dad exchanged a glance, neither refuting nor reprimanding him. It felt like betrayal, cold, sharp, and undeniable. "Maybe he's right," I whispered, voice shaking slightly, courage building from anger and disbelief. "Maybe you'd appreciate me if I wasn't here paying every bill." Dad scoffed, leaning back arrogantly. "Go ahead. Let's see how well you survive without us." Without us? Was he serious? I'd spent years quietly securing this household, yet here I was, painted as ungrateful and dependent. Reddit's advice about boundaries echoed loudly. You have to teach people how to treat you, and sometimes teaching meant leaving. I stood up suddenly, chair scraping loudly across the tile floor. "You know what? You're right. Let's see how you manage without your martyr," I said sharply. Mom opened her mouth, perhaps to calm things down, but no words emerged. Dad remained silent. a smugness mixed with mild panic in his eyes. Kai was smirking, fully entertained. With resolve I didn't know I possessed, I grabbed my keys and jacket. Nobody moved to stop me. The silence was deafening, louder than any yelling. Outside, the cold air felt like a slap, sobering and harsh. Sitting in my car, adrenaline rushed through me, but so did fear. Could I actually do this? Taking a deep breath, I opened Reddit on my phone, fingers trembling slightly as I typed into r/relationships. Just walked out of my toxic family after years of supporting them financially. Feeling lost but weirdly liberated. Advice? I hesitated, then hit post. Replies began flooding in, encouraging, understanding, comforting. Strangers offered more empathy in minutes than my family had in years. It gave me strength. I started the engine, headlights illuminating the empty street. Behind me, the lights of my childhood home flickered dimly. It no longer felt like home, it felt like the past. I drove into uncertainty, unsure of where I'd go, only knowing that for the first time in years. The path ahead was mine to choose. When you walk out on everything you've ever known, you imagine liberation to be instantaneous, like a movie scene where the protagonist drives away into a bright horizon, triumphant music swelling. The truth, as I quickly learned, is messier. Freedom was terrifying at first. That night, after storming out, I crashed on Emma's worn-out sofa, scrolling through Reddit's relationship and advice forums until dawn. The overwhelming support felt strangely comforting, strangers on the internet validating my decision more than my own family had in years. But even surrounded by these digital affirmations, anxiety lingered. Questions gnawed at my mind. Where would I go? How would I sustain myself? The following morning, Emma handed me a cup of coffee, dark circles beneath her sympathetic eyes. I know it hurts right now, she said gently, but you're finally putting yourself first. You deserve that, Riley. Her words echoed what Reddit had been telling me all night. That sometimes leaving isn't giving up, it's moving forward. Emma's presence gave me strength, but I knew this couch surfing couldn't last forever. Within days, I was apartment hunting. The process felt surreal. After years of paying someone else's mortgage, finally searching for a home that was genuinely mine. My first few apartment tours were disheartening. Small spaces with cracked paint and questionable neighbors. Yet the prospect excited me. Even in uncertainty, hope had begun to blossom. On Reddit's r/frugal, I learned budgeting strategies that transformed my anxiety into actionable plans. I landed a modest studio apartment overlooking a bustling street filled with cafes and bookstores. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I shared my milestone on r/mildly interesting, posting a picture of my sparse yet cozy new living space. Hundreds of upvotes and warm comments poured in, fueling my confidence. In my solitude, I rediscovered passions long abandoned. Emma gifted me her old Nikon camera, jokingly calling it my freedom lens. Photography quickly consumed me. I began capturing everyday moments, morning sunlight hitting coffee steam, vibrant street murals, spontaneous city life. Reddit communities like r/photography and r/pics encouraged my growing skills with earnest advice and generous praise. Months passed. Stability returned. I secured a job as an editorial assistant at an indie publishing company, a perfect fit for my meticulous personality and love for storytelling. Slowly, piece by piece, my life began to feel whole again, each achievement solely mine, unburdened by family expectations. But despite these victories, memories of my family haunted me. On quiet nights, loneliness would creep in. I'd browse Reddit's r/raised by narcissists, recognizing patterns I'd lived through: emotional manipulation, favoritism, and transactional love. Still, the ache remained. A dull pain beneath newfound freedom. 7 months after walking away, I'd established a new routine. Weekends exploring farmers' markets, photographing hidden corners of the city. Evenings lost in Reddit rabbit holes, engaging with communities that now felt more like family. My Reddit username, u/newliferiley, became a small comfort, symbolizing my fresh start. Then one Wednesday afternoon, as I edited an article about urban gardening, my phone buzzed. Glancing down, my heart stopped. A message from an unknown number appeared on the screen. "Riley, it's Dad. We have an urgent issue. Call me immediately." Anxiety rushed back like an old enemy. Another message quickly followed, chilling in its bluntness. "The bank contacted us about foreclosure. The mortgage hasn't been paid in months. Explain yourself." I stared, disbelief numbing my thoughts. Explain myself? After everything, after months of silence and no attempt at reconciliation. That was his approach? Hands trembling, I screenshot the message and posted it anonymously to r/entitledparents, adding a brief caption. "Guess who just remembered I exist after 7 months?" Replies flooded in, ranging from indignation to dark humor, reinforcing my decision to stay firm. But beneath the Reddit camaraderie, sadness lingered. Family wasn't supposed to treat each other like disposable resources. Later, my phone vibrated again, this time, a call. Taking a steadying breath, I answered. Dad's voice crackled through. Tense and urgent. "Riley, we don't have time for games. Why haven't you paid?" Hurt flashed hotly through me. "Games?" My voice was steadier than expected. "I left 7 months ago, Dad. I assumed you realized I wasn't coming back." "Be reasonable," he snapped. "You can't just abandon your obligations." "My obligations?" Anger strengthened my resolve. Those obligations weren't mine to begin with. I sacrificed my dreams for years, and you called it entitlement. That was said in anger, he replied hastily. "We're family." Families argue, Riley. On Reddit's forums, I'd read similar manipulative tactics countless times. Now, witnessing it firsthand, recognition empowered me. Real family wouldn't dismiss my efforts as trivial. Real family wouldn't just remember me when their finances collapsed. Silence stretched between us before Dad's voice lowered dangerously. "Do you really want to see your brother lose his home?" His words stung, the emotional blackmail transparent. But I knew better now. Kai is old enough to handle responsibilities. Maybe it's time you let him. Dad scoffed, irritation clear. "You're selfish, Riley." "No, Dad," I whispered firmly. "I'm just finally setting boundaries." After a strained goodbye, I hung up, drained yet oddly at peace. That evening, I shared an update on r/off-me-chest, pouring out the complex mix of sadness, relief, and clarity the conversation had brought me. The community's response was overwhelmingly supportive. One comment, however, stuck deeply. "Family shouldn't cost you your peace. Proud of you for protecting your boundaries." Days later, word reached me that my parents had moved into a smaller rental. Kai finally taking a part-time job to contribute. A bittersweet feeling washed over me, knowing their adjustment would be difficult, yet necessary. Change often requires discomfort. I learned that firsthand. Months rolled forward. Life grew brighter. Promotions at work, deeper friendships, and photography exhibitions brought fulfillment I'd never imagined. Occasionally, memories of my family surfaced, softened by time but never fully disappearing. Reddit became both therapy and refuge, a space to reflect and offer others advice born from my struggles. The story I once lived as a tragedy transformed into empowerment. I learned love doesn't require self-sacrifice at the expense of identity, and that freedom often begins with choosing oneself, even if that choice initially feels terrifying. To anyone trapped in similar circumstances, take it from you/newliferiley, your value is not defined by how much you endure for others, but by how bravely you respect your own worth.
So, what do you think? Have you ever been in a situation where choosing peace meant walking away from people you thought would always be there? I'd love to hear your thoughts, reflections, or even just a "you're not alone" in the comments. Your voice matters here. If the story resonated with you or simply made you think, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. There's always another chapter to explore. Another story that might feel just a little too real. Thanks for sticking with me through the end. It means more than you know. Until next time, take care of your heart and honor your worth.